Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is May 2nd, 2024. You are listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today we have a really interesting topic. I mean, I think every day is kind of interesting, but today we're talking about flipping SaaS on its head. So instead of thinking of SaaS as software as a service, today we're going to talk about service as a software, or at least that concept. And before we jump into this, let me tell you who we have today. We have Jyunmi, Andy, Beth, and I'm Brian. And what I really want to do before we go too far is I want to make sure we give credit as credit is due because, in fact, it was Karl who brought this to our team's attention. But, look, we are all over, Beth and Karl, usually they're our Twitter, watchers. And so they'll bring stuff that's on X and bring interesting things, or I'll see things on LinkedIn, or Andy will find really good, interesting stories. So we're always scouring, we're always reading, we're different newsletters. And this was something that Karl brought to our attention. And he said, I don't want to speak for Karl. Hopefully maybe he'll jump on the call here today, but he was saying, like, this is where I think the focus needs to be. And there's a good point to it. So I want to give credit where credit is due. In fact, I'm just going to pull this up on my screen so everybody can see it. This comes from someone named Joanne Chen. I do not know her, but she works for Foundation Capital. And she put out a post about 1 week ago on LinkedIn. I believe this is where Karl saw it. And there's an article that actually went out on Forbes, and it's called AI Leads a Service as a Software Paradigm Shift. And that's really what we're gonna sort of focus on, the ideas and concepts that are laid out in this article. And what I need to do to this is like share this tab instead. So always realize you can jump over. Oh, there it goes. It's a little sticky. So if we jump over to this idea, just to kind of get things sort of started here, here's a great way to think of it, because it's actually right here in the beginning of the article. We'll reference this and get our feedback as we go here. But basically, in the service business, responsibility for achieving the desired outcome sits with the company selling the service. Instead of QuickBooks, you offer tax services. And in this case, conducted by an AI accountant. The upside of this change is huge, a $4.6 trillion opportunity, since the global services market dwarfs the software market in size. So I think this is just like, I'll come back to this article, but I think this is a great place to kick off this conversation and maybe kick it over to you guys. But it's just this general idea that with the proliferation and the advancements in AI, where we know we are going with agents, where we can potentially see the AI market going, that the idea being is that there is a lot more money to be made. And they use Salesforce as an example down farther. We'll talk about that in offering these services supplemented by AI in order to basically do the work of, let's say, 100 employees or whatever you want to throw into that equation to it. But the idea that there's a lot more to be made by using AI to provide services, as opposed to just an end result of a software where it's on the end user to still use that software. So if I have QuickBooks, great, but now QuickBooks needs to either train me, or I need to know how to do my taxes, my accounting, let's just say, using QuickBooks, as opposed to QuickBooks also having AI agents that do it for me. So I'll stop there, throw that over to you guys. What was your guys' take when you first read this? Where did your brain go? I think this is one of these shows where it's like, it shoots your brain off into space, and you go, oh my goodness, this is a really new way of thinking this, or not new, but a different way of looking at the future. So what do you guys think on this?
Okay. Before there was software as a service, there was software. I'm going to take the example of CRM and Salesforce, particularly, as the leading cloud-based software as a service that fulfills the function of sales, customer relationship management, and opportunity pipeline conversion to accounts and so on. Before that happened, there was a company that sold software to enterprises called Siebel. It was enormous. And that company was in effect disrupted by the emergence of Salesforce.com. The big question was, as an enterprise, am I going to put my treasured information about my customers up in the cloud, or don't I want it on premises? And there was a lot of resistance internally from IT functions within major enterprises to this migration to the cloud. So now you get this migration to the cloud, and Siebel gamely tried to match that by offering a cloud-based CRM solution in addition to their premises-based software. But that didn't compete very well with Salesforce.com. And so Salesforce is now the big gorilla when it comes to cloud-based CRM of all kinds. And they cover all the bases now of extended enterprise requirements planning, right? So it's all there, ERP. Now, SaaS was driven by using APIs to integrate with enterprises' other systems. Okay, so once you have a cloud provider, then you have to have an application programming interface to play with that. And then that kind of made it possible for integrations across multiple SaaS services to create a system for a company that would cover all the business processes internally. So this is part of the API emergence of automation process. And Zapier, I think, is in my recollection of history, that was the major player. And what they did was they developed standing APIs across all these various SaaS offerings out there that you could implement without going to your IT department and asking them to write, application integrations using APIs. So there you have a very simple process that was just moving data back and forth between these various softwares as a service. The financial platform, software as a service. We used a system called Intact that was bought by Sage. So Sage is a player in that financial ERP system kind of space. So there's Zapier doing this job of business process automation, but all they're really doing is connecting systems that are software as a service. Now you bring LLMs into the game, and LLMs have the ability to understand what's going on, and actually agentic LLMs that are just around the corner can look at your systems and say, okay, here's what I need to do in order to complete this business process. I've got to go to this software as a service. I've got to go to this one. I'm going to, exploit the APIs that are there. So it's going way beyond just moving data, and it's actually providing sort of intelligent operation of your systems within the enterprise. And this, to fast forward, replaces humans and their role in the process. So there's definitely a disruptive transformation happening here. Joanne Chen is very articulate about the investment thesis that Foundation Capital has and the scale of that opportunity for investment in startups who are addressing this shift to providing a service, like the whole function, externally to the enterprise, outsource it. Startup, build your product, but don't do finance, don't do accounting, don't do marketing. Use an agentic service to perform those functions. And that's this transformation that she's describing. And I buy into it wholeheartedly because I see it as the culmination of a long progression of changes, starting with software to software as a service, softwares as a service to API integration across those two, LLMs producing an orchestration of all of these to serve the enterprise.
Right. And one of the things that you say, Andy, that's relevant in this is that Salesforce has been in this game for a really long time. So Salesforce's AI revolution started, 2014, something like that, 2015. And they, one of the reasons that incorporating Salesforce in your organization was a great move for companies and still is that you can do more with fewer people. Mm-hmm. And so as we move toward not just like creating the assets that a sales rep needs, right? And like suggesting the next best action, as we actually move to being able to take that action or prepare everything in an agentic way. And then there's just a human saying, okay, yep, that looks good. I've reviewed this. Or even like, hey, are you ready? I've dialed the call for you. Right. Like, I mean, as we go sort of forward in this, or maybe the call is no longer a human because things like play.ht are and bland are now good enough that you can not be upset that they act weirdly when you interrupt them as AI phone call agents. But this is a play that Salesforce has been moving toward kind of the whole time, or at least like seeing the next step. And like one of the article that I just read on the 23rd was talking about service as revenue, right? Because that's something that now can come into it, and it is a Salesforce idea, right? So that they're reacting to increasing customer demand in terms of what kinds of things they experience as service, and there's a disconnect between companies providing service that customers expect, right? The changing customer expectations. And we've highlighted that, like, please put help bots on your help documentation. And Salesforce does that actually. Yeah. But also that then when you get really great service creates a revenue increase, opportunity, retention, all of those things.
And so I just because we're talking about Salesforce, I just want to stay on this real quick because Joanne does talk about Salesforce in the article. And I know it's probably I can make it a little bit bigger here, but it's okay. It basically says, think of it this way. Salesforce, one of the most successful software companies of all time, like Andy was saying, generates only 35 billion in revenue annually and will grow incrementally. Global companies spend 1.1 trillion on sales and marketing salaries each year. The size of the opportunity for AI disruption is many multiplies larger than Salesforce could ever be. So the $4.6 trillion question. So how much will AI plus automation and the service as a software model do away with? We believe it's a $4.6 trillion question. And then it breaks it down. Like we look at a few areas. Salaries of jobs globally is 2.3 trillion in sales and marketing, software engineering, security, and HR. Plus the amount spent on outsourced services and salaries, both IT services and business process services, another 2.3 trillion. So that's how they come up with their 4.6. So, they're just using, Salesforce as an example. And in fact, I'll just go back really quick here because they do give they give a few, but I pulled up two of them. This is one company. This is Eightfold.ai. They give examples, I think, of what they've invested in. So these are just two examples of services and software. So everything talent powered by AI. We've seen other businesses like this. I think recruiting and jobs, we've seen the moves that LinkedIn has made in this area. LinkedIn is not going to stop. They're a Microsoft company. We are going to see more and more and more of this. But this appears to be, a company that's, heavy in the getting people into the right job space. That's a service that can more and more be taken over by AI. And so this company Eightfold is in that area. Another one really quick is Turing. Turing is a company with an all-in-one platform that utilizes AI to provide flexible, simple, and robust cloud video security solutions to safeguard lives and assets in an increasingly complex world. So just two examples there brought up by Joanne in the article, as well as a few others, but I just wanted to highlight a few. Karl, you've joined us since we sort of started talking about this, and I was giving you credit at the top of the show saying that you were the one that brought this to our group and how we all sort of source different ideas. And I was drawn to what you had said in our Slack channel, which was like, if this is where if you're going to put your effort, put it here. So can you kind of expand on that and what, when you read this article, like what really sort of inspired you?
It connected to that quote that Sam Altman was, I don't know if it's a running joke or if he was being dead serious about what will it take for the one person, $1 billion company. And when I read this, actually credit to Liz Adams, in the AI Exchange and the AI marketing Slack, who posted this and actually was reading about this. So I'm always looking for what can disrupt anything that can disrupt anything right now. And I feel when I read this, these are the kind of things that I like about AI, because it's not just about, oh, I want you to create an email, I want you to create content. This is the things that I think AI is actually natively set out to do. Whatever it can do now, I think like in the next year, 2, 3 years, this is the kind of stuff that it's supposed to, or the vision that some of these companies is supposed to do. So instead of having people actually use the software that you create with agents, you can perform it. So how will I started asking even our enterprise business, what are some of the things that you think AI could do that our customers don't want to do, but right now they have to do it on our platform? And no one actually thought of it that way. And it goes back to the other interview with Sam Altman and Brad Lightcap when they were talking about most enterprises and companies think tools are static. So they thought of it like the iPhone, where it's had the same form factor. It's had its same iOS for 15, 17 years. But AI actually changes. So it's not going to, GPT 6, 7 won't perform or look like GPT 3.5. Even though there's changes to the iOS 1 to 17, it's still a bunch of apps. You still swipe. It's the same thing. But now imagine interacting with it, voice, video, using agents. So that changes everything. Now connect that to, so my challenge to everyone, to all our listeners out there, especially those who either use SaaS tools or are in SaaS companies, think about, instead of your customers actually going and using the tool that you've created or your company has licensed for people to use, think how agents or AI could actually perform those tasks. And then how would your company either get disrupted by it, or how could you take advantage of it to pivot to something like that?
Right. Because one of the things that the research shows is a disconnect in the service element of that is, our companies anticipating users' needs, right? Customers want their needs to be anticipated. And that is not something that they're feeling they're getting from the companies. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Karl. In terms of like, think about what people are doing, right? And what they're...
Now, I want you to also, for people in the audience, think about this too. There's a lot of SaaS tools out there that we have to companies have to customize to fit the needs of the specific company, right? So, oh, we need this part, or it's a custom build. And I think that's always the challenge with any SaaS is like, how do you keep it custom, or do you keep it, is there like a foundation that everyone has to use, and so on? But what if AI could bypass that entire customization and perform it to the specifics of your customer? So it's no longer they have to input data. They still have to maybe put some base things that they want, but more of, again, if you look at agents this way, here's my goal. Oh, accomplish it. Here's my goal for this industry. Accomplish it. And accomplish it the way you want it versus another client who wants it the other way.
Right.
I think about, I want to throw this out there. So my daughter's a teenager, and we were recently at Cava, I believe. So like sort of a fast food restaurant, but like sort of like a Chipotle, right? If you don't know what Cava is, it's delicious, by the way. Cava, shout at us. Go ahead and
we need the sponsorship.
If you want to sponsor this AI show,
this is brought to you by Cava.
I would love that. I will eat it on screen. No, Cava. So we were there, and the point is to this is right before we got up to the front, my daughter turned to me quietly and said, "I'm nervous about ordering." Now, this is totally normal. I was in the line with her and I was like, I get that. I was the same way as a teenager. It's a lot. What will the person say to you? Will they speak too softly? Will they speak loud? Will they throw a curveball at you and ask you about something with a bowl that you're not prepared for? It's a lot. It's anxiety. Adults have it too. And so we were having this conversation. And I told her, I said, I remember the first time I was a teenager and I had to fly by myself. And I had to go to the airport and get through TSA and all these things. I was like, and it was a lot. I was so nervous going through that experience. And the reason I bring this up is because the human to human interaction, you hear a lot where people say, oh, I just want to talk to a human. I just want to talk to another human. But I really believe the reason for that is because in that particular use case, it is still most efficient to go through a human. But AI is continuing to change this. And this is nothing new. This is, phone, trees and stuff like that you have to go through and press 1 and press 4. And you go, oh my God, at some point, just solve my problem or give me an agent. Just give me somebody to talk to because this is mind numbing to do this. But that only lasts, I believe, until the problem doesn't actually get solved. If the phone tree, if the AI agent does a beautiful job of solving my problem, I don't need to talk to a human. We've seen this with, drive-throughs at your McDonald's. Some have failed. Some have come back. People have said, I don't like it. Just let me talk to somebody and put my order in. But again, we've seen this in Europe. I mean, 2017, I was going into McDonald's and pressing buttons on a large, tap screen to put my order in. There was only one person at the desk that was taking orders. So we know this is coming. All we have to do is look in other countries where this is much more, what's the word? The word went out of my head, but it happens more often, right? Than we see maybe in the States. So I just want to bring that up because I agree with you guys. I think offering these services, and originally, yes, it's going to be human in the loop type stuff, like you were saying, Karl. And it's like, go this far, but then come back to me and I want to be part of this. And we're going to do that for a while. That's not going to be a here today, gone tomorrow type thing. But I agree with what you guys are saying is, as a company, I'll take scale, right? We are a sales consulting company. We go in and we help other companies make their sales process more efficient, faster, lighter. We do that through playbooks. We do that through AI solutions. We do that through revenue enablement and RevOps and all these things. But even as a company, we have to be thinking too, like you're saying, Karl, okay, where do we need to start thinking about AI agents and where that will come into play as a sales consulting organization? And where will we start to be able to hand off some of these consulting operations to AI for our clients so that it's self-service? Because our clients love talking to us, don't get us wrong. But guess what? If we can provide just as high quality of information and help them solve their problem and they don't have to get on a call with us, they're going to pick that solution. I mean, nothing against Scale. They're the lovely people I work with, but it's the truth. So we have to be thinking as a company, where is the future of this?
I think that's important, but it isn't just for the company itself. Can the company exist if that model actually is in place? That's a question that each company would have to figure out, because there would be some companies that it wouldn't exist, because it'd be really interesting to see competitors, like smaller competitors of bigger enterprise companies or bigger companies, like have the flexibility, the capability, and just because they have nothing to lose, to just say, you know what, forget the SaaS model. I'm going to go the other SaaS model. And that's the true disruption in the space. Then you'll be like, hey, using AI, it can do this. Oh, we don't need to buy this? Yes. And then the market and the customers will have a choice. Do I want to go with traditional SaaS or do I want to go with new SaaS? And what will it be? I'm very curious. I'm surprised no one in the SaaS world has thought about this. And maybe it's because the current AI models can't do this. But I'm sure someone in our audience and people who read that article and others thinking about it, it's not going to be long before, hey, let's try it in this industry, and something will pop, and then everybody else will start following, because that's going to be the new model or another option for businesses.
And what
So
does
it's
this do?
not, I don't think it's that people have not thought of it. Like Salesforce is definitely thinking of this, but Salesforce's dominant clients are enterprise, not startups, right? Not like Salesforce is working with the Titanics for the most part. Not I have Titanics and I don't know, smaller things, but they're not working for like the Sunfish solo sailboat, right?
Right.
And that's what you're talking about, Karl. Like how far, if you're tiny or small, can you grow with AI agents functioning, salaried, what you would have salaried roles for as you grow? I think you're right. It's a huge disruptor.
What if your whole sales department and your marketing department are just AI agents? What if,
That's what I was talking about like several weeks back, Andy, Beth, when we talked about, hey, I'm going to create my AI council. All it needs is a bunch of monkey fingers. And then you have your one person, $1 billion valued company, because essentially you have your AI CTO, CMO, CPO, whatever other C-suite AI person that you create or thing that you create. And then from there, it runs agents. Yeah, hashtag monkey fingers.
I felt like you've said it so many times. We just need to own it at this point. Hashtag monkey fingers. Brought to you by Karl.
The question is, no, it's actually by Beth. I remember that she's the one.
Oh, that was Beth. I'm sorry, Beth. I gave the wrong attribution.
Doesn't it sound like Beth?
But then the question I had was like, how would people be comfortable reporting into an AI? Because that's the founder of the company is not who you're reporting to. Is reporting to the AI company, the AI who's setting the founder has given the mandate to do the specific thing to accomplish the overarching goal of, coming up with a product, bringing the product to market, go to market, whatever that is. So
that's the thing, Karl. In the $1 billion unicorn model, no one's reporting to the AI. The AI is just reporting to the CEO because there's just the one person.
There is. Right, that's true. And then everything's supplemented with maybe agencies or virtual assistants, but not really employees of the company.
Right. And it's just issuing. I don't want to say issuing commands, but it's issuing.
It is issuing commands.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of heavy connotation with that word, but essentially, what we've been highlighting and what this article really highlights for me, like when I first read it, I was like, oh, this is everything we've been talking about for the last 6 months, right? The $1 billion evaluation unicorn, the can three people work with AI to win an Oscar, right? AI agents, all of these stories that we've been talking about, and all of these rollouts that people are seeing, all leads to that direction. Is with AI, and specifically agentic AI, you can replace the services and the work of the vast majority, if not everything, for your business. And that's both fantastical for someone who's an entrepreneur and just wants to get things started and, hey, I can do everything myself. Fantastic. But on the other hand, how does this seep into the SMBs and the enterprise? What are they going to look at this doing? And, the scary part is, we're going to slash the bottom line here. And what is our biggest cost is salaries. So that's what makes this so prevalent, and what people need to pay attention to is once this agentic AI becomes rapidly or ubiquitously available, that's where this thing's going to shift, like majorly, like super quickly too, like almost immediate. It's like, oh, we have an actual working, highly accurate agent going off to the races.
Yeah.
And people are, companies are just going to look at ways that they're going to cut costs. I would suggest, instead of looking at ways to cut cost, look at ways that your investment in the talent or your talent pool can increase productivity. I would rather be the enterprise company who has an annual budget of $100 million, $200 million in whatever, field or more, and spend the same amount of money on the same people, but increase my productivity 4x, 10x, 12x, or whatever it's going to be. That's the way I would suggest looking at it, as opposed to, I can save myself 100 million here or 10 million here. Those kinds of budget cuts, as opposed to productivity boosts.
What do you guys think is the reinvestment then if you're the CEO and you're looking, enough into the future and you're going, look, I'm in an industry where I'm probably up first. Okay. So if you're that CEO, what are you thinking about in terms of reinvesting and learning in AI to do that? Let's say that's your goal, Jyunmi. Like, I don't want to cut employees. I just want to make them more efficient and grow the company, grow the whole pie, grow the whole thing. Not necessarily, my slice bigger. Where do you put that investment in training now? Is it in simple prompt engineering? Is it in sending people back to get education in communication skills? Which we kind of know has been lacking a lot of the cases by our own doing. So do you send it back there because you go, well, communication is going to rule the day, whether you're talking and communicating with an AI agent or you're communicating in general. So where do you put that money, or that investment today?
So that is a fantastic question, and we could probably talk an entire episode about this or two, but broad strokes, right? I say, let's lean into the $1 billion one-person unicorn. Okay. So invest in your talent pool. That's continued education, specified, specific education in AI business ops, whatever that, field touch upon the kind of business that you do. 100% increase the communication and soft skills so that when you learn how to talk to other people, because your LLMs and your AIs are going to think and understand like people. So like you said, Brian, that's hugely important. But let's lean into the umbrella type of format. Your company no longer needs to be, and this may be a little further down the line, but your company no longer needs to be a classic hierarchical type system, right? Your company can just be an umbrella that connects to all of these other companies. Everybody else is running their own part of it with their own AI team, with their own council and their own structure. And your company, right, if you're reinvesting this money, is to invest in their success, because they can touch upon all of these these different fields and stuff. And you sort of create like this mycelial network. And it can be global, because distance no longer matters. Time doesn't matter. So anyone, anywhere can contribute to whatever your larger goals are. And you're just interconnecting them. So an internet of people, really.
Andy,
well, I want to push back a little bit on what I consider to be a little utopian view of how there will be a new emergent, kind of network of individual contributors, all of them building $1 billion of revenue themselves. There's a cap on what an enterprise can generate as revenue. So if you're going to invest, you want to provide a return on that investment, which is going to be measured in new revenue and or new margin. But there's a limit in the competitive landscape to what your enterprise can actually collect as rents, if you will, for the services that you provide. And you're already now filled with all these salaried positions that are performing functions that can be automated and replaced. And now you're saying invest in the people who are going to be replaced by the automations and let them be more productive. Invest so that they are more productive. But I wouldn't
say the ones replaced by the automations. I'm saying they have the opportunity to be that that key linchpin or that key human in the loop. It's all about going back to the specialist can get more out of AI, right? Or the experienced person in their field will get more out of AI than just anybody off the street, right? Who doesn't have
remember what we're talking about here on this show is taking a whole department, a whole function, customer service, CSRs, all those people who are answering the phones right now. And we're replacing it by an outboard service as a software company that's going to handle all that with automations. What do you do with those people? I'm cynical about the impact of this disruption being solved.
I agree
by investing in those same people. I don't see that as a logical.
I agree with you on that, Andy. There is going to be a certain level of disruption and a certain level of barriers that we'll have to overcome to figure out that. Do I have the answer for that particular piece? Like if we're looking at a hierarchical structure, the people on the bottom, do we have or under the line, do we have a solution for the work that they're doing? No, that's why I'm saying we need to invest in whatever it takes to get those people into, doing whatever we need them as the larger whole to do, because that's going to be the answer to what everyone has been talking about for the last year is the job loss, right? If you have an AI that answers the phone for you, you don't need a person there anymore. And that's the existential crisis there. It's like, well, what is that person going to do? And then, there's a couple of different paths on what we can think about. Yes, some are more utopian than others. Absolutely. Some are going to be better for humanity as a whole. Absolutely. What do we think is going to happen? I'm leaning more probably greed will overtake most enterprise companies, unfortunately. But that's what we have to mitigate. We have to mitigate that greed, impact.
Though. I think you and I are like on the same page about what the range of possibilities are out there in response to general intelligence automation of business processes inside companies. Yeah. We used to talk about different groups of employees within a company as being either a cost center or a profit center. Right. And, typically you would think of the profit center as being, the functions that are doing innovation, new customer development and so on. Whereas cost centers would be just the things that have to be done, rote business processes that are, they're the ones that are ripe for automation. And I think that it's those cost center things that are going to be, it's not about greed. It's just that if I'm posed with the question, hey, I can do this function with 10 employees, in the same way that I've done it before, or I can pay half that amount to a service as a software company to get it done. I have to make that decision. That's my responsibility as the general manager. And then, what I would like to do, because I'm a human and I have empathy for the people who are going to be riffed in that process, is I want to say, where's the opportunity to invest in them with tools and skills that will make them generate more revenue for my company rather than just fulfill performance of a function that's a cost center. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that there's an easy answer to that. That isn't equally replaceable by agentic AI.
So I think Beth in our side comments, I probably had the best idea here, which is like, hey, we're going to pause this today and come back tomorrow, because tomorrow we have our 2-week wrap-up show. And that's a perfect place to carry on this conversation, which is, I love, by the way, I love listening to both of you guys on this. But I would like tomorrow, Beth or Karl, whoever else is here, to hear your thoughts on like, all right, what do you do, as far as education going in this? So we can pick that back up tomorrow, but we can also talk about other topics over the last 2 weeks. We talked about mixture of depths 2 weeks ago. We talked about all sorts of AI jargon. We had our show that we've talked about that went into Forbes.com about, was mentioned in Forbes.com about, can you win an Oscar in 7 years if you have 3 people only writing and no other staff using AI? We've talked a little bit more about the index report. Edge AI was on Tuesday this week. Today, obviously talking about SaaS. So we have so many different topics that might come up tomorrow. Who knows where it'll go? It's always a super fun show. And I just want to give a quick shout out for not tomorrow, but next Friday, which is our 200th episode. So if you're putting one on the calendar, if you're just learning about us for the first time today and you're a brand new visitor, believe it or not, we've done this almost 200 times, and we like to think we're getting better at it, little by little on here. And we're not AI agents yet, so still anywhere from 4 to 7 humans on a given weekday, and that will be the way it is going forward in the near future until maybe AI solutions, and then maybe we're out of a job. We'll find out. All to be continued. Until then, we will see you guys tomorrow. And thanks for the awesome conversation today. This is a really, really good one. I can't wait to come back to this one again. All right. See you guys.
Aloha.